All right, guys. So our next topic is our final Spider-Man related topic. This news just came out around the same time as the Willem Dafoe news, and it's not that anything that all the other ones weren't interesting, but this one is particularly interesting. And this is coming to us from I think this article itself is from Comic Book Resource, but a lot of outlets have been reporting on it. There was like an interview done, or someone was speaking with an executive from Sony, and he had some interesting comments about the whole Sony Spiderverse and the MCU, and if there's going to be any interplay at all, if it's the same universe, if Tom Holland's going to be showing up in Venom, or if Venom's going to be showing up in the MCU in general, that sort of thing. And he goes on to say, let me find his quick comment here. So, and this is where earlier I mentioned, the whole 900 characters thing in the Sony Spider-Verse, Sony owning Spider-Man, that is 900 characters worth of, people from just the Spider-Man universe alone that they own. So he goes on to say, and this is, what's the fella's name from Sony?
The fella.
Sony Pictures executive Sanford Panich. So I'm not familiar with anything relating to this fella outside of this article. But in essence, he said there actually is a plan for the Sony movies to connect in some capacity, which we kind of seen in the Morbius trailer, obviously, because it looked like Michael Keaton's Vulture showed up in that first trailer, and there was a Spider-Man like graffiti on the wall to go along with it. But nevertheless, he goes on to say during this interview that we don't really think of our 900 characters as Spideyverse. Yeah, he said when he was speaking to Variety, he says, "We have a Marvel universe. The volume of characters we have, wait until you see this next Venom. You don't miss Spider-Man. It'll be exciting if they do meet, right? It would be.
Right?
I would like to, right? I would like to see them meet. I think everybody kind of assumed that would happen at some point, given the fact it's Venom, and the in comic lore, you really don't have Venom without Spider-Man. So it was there were a lot of naysayers initially when Venom came out, or it was even talked about that there's no way this will work without Spider-Man. God damn it worked. I liked that first Venom movie. Probably more than most people
That was
did, but hell,
great. I thought it was awesome.
dude, it made like 800, almost $900 million.
I'll put it
Like,
this way, like, I was entertained. It was good.
it's an
I thought it was
entertaining
good.
movie. It's a decent little film. Like, it's not a bad film. Like, I thought it was fine anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I have no problem with it.
it was good. But he goes on to so he said this article, this next quote here is the key quote here says Panich is all too aware of the tension caused by this nexus of intellectual property, as well as the confusion and frustration it has led among fans. Nevertheless, he is confident that the tension will be resolved and that the Kraven movie will prove to be a key piece of the puzzle. So he goes on to say there actually is a plan. I think now maybe it's getting a little more clear for people where we're headed, and I think when No Way Home comes out, even more will be revealed. So, that's why when I said before, if you go all the way back to the beginning of this video when you're talking about the whole Kraven situation, I ended that topic with, do you think there's going to be a Sinister Six movie? This is pretty much why. And then the last kind of quote he really had to go on and say is, the great thing is we have this very excellent relationship with Kevin Feige. There's an incredible sandbox there to play with. We want to use those MCU movies to be absolutely huge because that's great for us and our Marvel characters, and I think that's the same thing on their side. But we have a great relationship. There's lots of opportunities, and I think that are going to happen. Lots of opportunities I think that are going to happen, rather. I don't know where I got the "and" from. So there you have it. That was all, like I said, it was some particularly interesting, comments and maybe some obscure confirmations, I guess you could say, in regards to the whole Spider-Man, MCU, Spider-Verse, conundrum. Because, I mean, ever since Sony has gone on to make the Venom movie and make the Morbius movie and all that, everyone's been wondering, well, what does this mean for Tom Holland's Spider-Man? Like, is Tom Holland's Spider-Man completely separate from these Marvel movies that are happening at Sony? These with all these Spider-Man characters, are they gonna, is Tom Holland gonna jump over and be in a Venom movie, or is Venom gonna show up in an MCU movie and what have you? And only more confusion happened with that Morbius trailer where you see, like I said, freaking Michael Keaton's Vulture character appears in that trailer, and then there's a picture of Spider-Man on the wall. So, I mean, obviously, even before the Morbius trailer and all this information, everyone's kind of been confused as to like, well, what the hell's going on with the Sony MCU relationship? Like, are these things in the same world? Remains to be seen, but this has definitely sparked some interest in at least this fandom's eyes. So, like, John, you being a little bit more connected to this stuff than Rick. No offense to Rick by any means, just saying it is what it is. What are your thoughts on this? Like, do you think we're gonna see them go the full Sinister Six route? Because I think I said on stream, if you include Willem Dafoe supposedly appearing in this movie, in this Spider-Man No Way Home movie, that gives us what do we got? We got Vulture, we got Electro, we got
Green
Doc Ock,
Goblin.
Venom, Morbius, and then Kraven. You're muted.
Yeah, that would
I
be
mean,
your 6.
There's your Sinister Six already. So what are your thoughts
Yeah,
on that?
definitely. Yeah, I mean, Sony's been talking about. Sony really has I don't know what the right way to put it is, a family-friendly way to put it is, but they really want a Sinister Six movie. I mean, they've been trying this
Oh my
ever
god,
since the
yeah.
Andrew Garfield. Like, I feel like they think a Sinister Six movie is like Avengers Endgame level potential or something. But obviously, I think a Sinister Six movie would be cool. I mean, obviously, it was always been a major story point in the comics throughout the years. So villains teaming up. I mean, we've had heroes team up, so the villains teaming up, especially to that degree, would be fun. Um, I'm really this everything we hear though. Every time we hear something new about Spider-Man and what Sony's doing and what Marvel's doing, like it gets me even more and more excited about No Way Home. I mean, No Way Home is going to be. I'm excited about Black Widow, but No Way Home may have jumped Black Widow for me, even though I'm kind of going through a Marvel movie withdrawal. But we'll see. Um, but hopefully we do get some answers coming out of No Way Home. Now, there's the part of me that because of all the multiverse stuff, because Far From Home established the idea that there is a multiverse, even though the multiverse didn't come into play in actuality. They still presented the idea to the fans in Far From Home, and maybe they expand to actually show the multiverse in No Way Home. I kind of wonder, just from his comments, if Marvel and Sony have not come to some sort of agreement about using Tom Holland in both franchises, but having them be separate, and only crossing them over when they need to, and just establishing that like this is Earth 616 is the MCU universe, but maybe Sony's Spider-Man universe is Earth 615. Maybe they're right next to each other, and the differences are so minor in that the Avengers just don't exist in Sony's universe, but Tom Holland and all his characters still exist exactly the same way they do in the MCU, and the only difference is you don't have that Avengers component. And so Tom Holland would start showing up. I don't know. But then you get into problems with Tom Holland's whole backstory is so tied heavily into Tony Stark. So I don't know. The other option is that they run the Sony Spider-Verse concurrent with the MCU, and they reference the MCU when they need to for story's sake, like where Peter gets his suit and stuff, but they don't reference it as far as like the big events that go on. They just pretend like they happen, but don't really address them in their movies. I don't know. But then that would also involve them coming to some sort of, I'm sure, revenue sharing agreement between Disney and Sony about how they're going to share profits on these movies, considering they're kind of merging the two universes at that point. But we'll see. No Way Home though that's the end of this year, right? We're in
Mhm.
We're in the home stretch. We're what, 6 months away, 7 months away from it. So, as much as I want to enjoy my summer and enjoy, things opening back up in the pandemic and all the other movies that are coming out between now and then, like, yeah, I really want to get to No Way Home and figure out what they're doing here.
The only other thing that's kind of odd with this whole Sinister Six proposal or, theory, I guess, in a way, is the Sony seems to be setting up, and we've already seen it with Venom, all of their, standalone characters who would make up this Sinister Six are being portrayed as anti-heroes. Like they're the hero of their story. They're not really necessarily villains. So like what's gonna make them come together to actually be the Sinister Six and want to take out Spider-Man? Like you could do it a little bit easier with Kraven, I think, but with Venom and then Morbius in particular too, like Venom has been portrayed as being, essentially a good guy, and then Morbius looks the same. Like from the trailers, it's just like Jared Leto's character just gets affected by this thing, but it doesn't seem like he's going out of his way to like kill people. So like I'm kind of curious of where
Do
they're
you,
gonna go with that.
do you think that Spider-Man, if in No Way Home, let's say Tom Holland's character truly does in No Way Home start jumping through the multiverse, do you think he pops up, that Venom pops up in a scene, and the reason that Morbius and Venom and all these characters come together is because they see Tom Holland's Peter Parker as a invader from a different universe. He represents some. They look at him as some sort of threat to their universe, and so they team up to kind of fight him or take him out as they view him. That way, you maintain that kind of heroic quality to him. But then, obviously, at some point, you have to, in the film, you would come to the realization that he actually isn't there as an antagonist. He's there as, just by happenstance or whatever. There's some other Machiavellian character behind the scenes that's causing this tension, or they're bringing him over to cause these issues. I don't know.
Well, I guess they could always set it up in a sense that like maybe to them Peter is the antagonist because he being the true hero in this universe, right? Like he would see Venom and Morbius as potential threats to normal society. Whether or not they're trying to like Venom and Eddie Brock and Tom Hardy's Venom is trying to be a good guy, trying to keep Venom under control. I could see like Tom Holland and like the Avengers kind of thing saying like, dude, you can't just roam the streets. Like at any point in time, that symbiote could just start eating people and you could lose control of it. And like, so maybe Spider-Man just wants to detain them for that kind of reason. And the same with Morbius. It's like, dude, you need to be contained because like it could hurt people. You know what I mean? It could be like a preemptive thing, and then they all team up to take him down because they're all in the same city. It could be something as
Yeah.
simple as that, I guess. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But Rick, what do you think about all this stuff?
I think it's cool. Like, I loved Venom as a movie, and I think it'd be really cool to see him like kind of tied into the Tom Holland Spider-Man universe. But I don't know much about like Sinister Six or anything like that, but it makes sense, I guess is the best way to put it.
I
I
mean,
think
it's
it'd be cool.
essentially just all the bad guys teaming
Yeah,
up.
well, the thing I really liked about Venom was the fact that they didn't make him like, a Topher Grace like bad guy. They made him like Tom Hardy's Venom as like an anti-hero, as you said. And the way I was listening when you were saying that about like what he does and his motivation and all that, like in Spider-Man, I think that'd be cool. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, because I mean, the only other thing they could kind of do is like put a twist on it, like use that same concept of like, well, Spider-Man and like the police and all them, the true good guys and the heroes in the universe would see them as potential threats. They could have someone like a Norman Osborn kind of what's the word influence them into
Yeah,
teaming up
yeah.
against Spider-Man because
Well, it makes sense.
he's gonna bring them in. You know what I mean?
Well,
So you
like you
got to
said
team up to
too,
stop him.
like you said too, with like Spider-Man talking to Venom, like, like, hey, you can't just be like doing this or whatever. Like Venom's a symbiote, he could take over whatever. I think that'd be kind of cool for them to step in like that. And it's hard to explain, but I'd like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has potential. I just worry that they're again. I worry it's going to end up being a Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2 situation. Like they're just throwing in all these
Yeah, where
characters.
there's just a bunch of villains.
Yeah,
And
just because, because like John said, they really been trying to do the Sinister Six thing, man. Like they've been trying so hard. They said overtly made Amazing Spider-Man 2 to explicitly set up the Sinister Six. They had that guy who worked at Oscorp literally walk down the hall and oh, there's the Vulture's wings and there's this and there's the glider and like it's like just the most in your face. We're gonna do a Sinister Six, guys. Like
yeah, like, hey,
that's all that movie was for. It did nothing else other than kill Gwen Stacy and introduce the Sinister Six in some capacity. And I just hope they don't do that because, like I said, I think they do run a narrative. Like there's a narrative wall there with the fact that they're setting up all these villains as heroes. Like they have to have some plot line that makes sense as to why all of a sudden Venom wants to kill Spider-Man, and like Morbius wants to kill Spider-Man. Like, who knows? Maybe Morbius won't be a part of the Sinister Six. Maybe it'll be somebody else. Like, I don't know. Even Vulture at the end of going to the MCU side, Vulture wasn't even like he didn't want to kill Peter at all. He's just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like he's just trying to get by. He's just trying to steal some aliens' tech and make some money. And Peter tried to stop him. There was really no ill will with it. In all honesty, he protected Spider-Man's identity and Peter's identity at the end of the movie with Scorpion. Like, so he doesn't even have any ill will against Spider-Man. So it's I just don't know what they're gonna do to make these guys, these bad guys that they've set up to just essentially not be bad guys. Why do they want to kill Spider-Man all of a sudden? Like,
I feel that
I think they have a problem with that. So they're going to have to find a way to
there's
make
got to
that
be some
make sense.
motivation.
Yeah, they need to have some good motivation for it and not just throw away all their character development they've had for these characters just to have the Sinister Six marketing. Like,
Right.
you know, so that's my only worry. So, but otherwise, I'm excited to see it. So, the question is, though, what do you guys think? Do you think that this is inevitable that they are moving forward with the Sinister Six, and that is what the studio exec is kind of teasing at Sony? I mean, and what do you think? Would you even want to see Tom Holland cross universes or the Venom characters and all the things that Sony's doing? Would you even want it to be a part of the MCU, or would you rather it be separate things? I said in the past, they could easily just say that Miles Morales is the Spider-Man in the Venomverse world. Just introduce Miles. We're all familiar with Miles because of Into the Spider-Verse anyway. You could have one quick movie with Peter coming in and talking to Miles, so it's like somewhat connected either way because Tom Holland's Peter shows up. You could do something like that. Hell, you could make it what's his name? I can't remember. The Spider-Man 2099. You could just throw him in there. Miguel something. I can't remember his last name right now, but they could do that. Let us know what you think down in the comment section below.